I never thought I'd be the guy to get blindsided like this, but here I am. My name's Mike, and I'm 32 years old. I met Lisa when I was in college, and she was the girl everyone thought was too good for everyone else, smart, beautiful, a little bitchy but charming when she wanted to be. We got married about 5 years ago, and honestly, for a while, things seemed perfect. Or at least I thought they were. She was clingy sometimes, but I figured that was just how she was, always needing to be the center of attention, always demanding, but I loved her. I still do, or I did, until everything started falling apart. It started subtly, I guess. Little things that I ignored because I didn't want to see the truth. She'd get defensive when I asked about her phone or her texts, said I was being paranoid. Then came the late nights, the secretive phone calls that she'd hide under her pillow when she'd think I wasn't looking. I'd catch a glimpse of her texting someone at weird hours and brushing it off. She'd say she was talking to her boss or a client. I believed her, or at least I wanted to, but I knew something was wrong. I could feel a distance growing between us, like she was hiding something, and I was starting to feel like I was losing my wife piece by piece. Then I got deployed overseas for a few months. I figured that'd be a test for us, see how we hold up apart. She said she'd wait for me, and I believed her. But the second I left, everything changed. I wasn't there to see what was happening behind closed doors, but I'd get these gut feelings. She'd start going out more, saying she was meeting friends, but her stories started to get inconsistent. Sometimes she'd forget to answer my calls or reply with vague texts. I'd check her social media, and she'd be out late, posting selfies with her hair done up, looking all flirty. That's when I started noticing the tone of her messages, flirty, a little suggestive. But I told myself I was just being paranoid. Still, I wished I could come back early just to confront whatever was going on. Then came the worst part. One night I was scrolling through her phone, something I'd never done before, but I was desperate. I saw a message thread between her and Jessica. Jessica was her supposed best friend, the girl she'd always bragged about, the one she'd meet up with when she said she was working late. Only the messages weren't about work. They were about sex. Explicit, dirty texts, late-night calls, plans to meet up. My stomach dropped. I couldn't believe it. My wife, the woman I trusted, was sending her best friend sexy messages, talking about how she was lonely, how she wanted to be with Jessica. That was the moment I knew everything I'd suspected was true. She wasn't just lying about work or friends. She was cheating on me with Jessica. I stared at the screen, feeling like I'd been punched in the gut. My mind raced. The betrayal wasn't just about the sex. It was the lying, the secrecy, the fact that she'd been doing this right under my nose while I was risking my life overseas. I thought about all the times I'd come home exhausted, only to be met with her bitchy attitude or her cold shoulder. And now I knew why. Every late night, every excuse, every time she brushed me off like I was just a bother, she was with Jessica, pretending everything was fine, pretending she loved me. I was furious, hurt, but mostly just numb. I didn't know what to do because I'd never been betrayed like this before. I thought I knew her. I thought I knew us. Turns out I was just fooling myself. The next few days after discovering the messages were a blur. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, and I kept replaying everything in my head. How long had this been going on? How had I missed all the signs? I felt like I'd been punched repeatedly, each blow knocking the wind out of me a little more. I wanted to confront her immediately, but I knew I had to calm down first. I needed a plan. I needed to understand what I was really dealing with, so I waited. I didn't call her or message her right away. Instead, I spent time digging through her phone more carefully. I found a lot of the same kind of texts, flirty messages, suggestive selfies, plans to meet up. There was even a screenshot of a hotel reservation in her name, for a night she told me she was working late. I felt sick just thinking about what they had been doing behind my back. I thought about all the times she'd lied to me, told me she loved me, and how she'd been sneaking around with Jessica. It wasn't just cheating, it was outright betrayal. I kept thinking, how could she do this? How could she lie so effortlessly? Finally, I couldn't hold it in anymore. I needed to hear her side, even if I already knew the truth. So I arranged to meet her at her place. I didn't want to do it over the phone or through text. This needed to be face to face. When she saw me, she looked surprised, but as soon as she caught sight of the serious look in my eyes, her face shifted. She tried to act innocent, acting like I was overreacting or imagining things. "Mike, what's wrong? Why are you acting so crazy?" she said, the usual bitchy tone in her voice. I stared at her, cold and furious, and told her I knew everything. The texts, the hotel, Jessica. Her face twisted, and she started lying, spinning her usual bullshit. "It's not what it looks like," she said, her voice dripping with false innocence. "You're just overthinking it. Jessica's just a friend and those texts are nothing." That's when I snapped. I told her I wasn't stupid, that I'd seen everything. I told her I knew she'd been lying to my face for months, that I knew about her and Jessica, how she'd been sneaking around, playing the innocent little wife while secretly screwing my best friend. Her eyes widened and she started crying, but it wasn't because she was sorry. It was because she knew she'd been caught. She looked me straight in the eyes and I saw the bitchy, manipulative side come out. "You're overreacting," she spat. "You're just jealous because I'm prettier than your boring ass. Jessica's just a friend and you're so paranoid you're crazy, Mike." That's when I realized her lies were endless and I'd been so blind to see it. The woman I married wasn't even close to the woman I thought she was. The betrayal cut me deep, but I knew I couldn't stay silent anymore. I had to decide what was next, whether I fought for her or if I finally accepted that she was gone for good. After she kept spinning her lies, I felt like I was losing my mind. The anger inside me was boiling over, but underneath that, there was this crushing sadness. I'd always thought she was my everything, my partner, the one person I trusted above all else. Now that trust had shattered into 1,000 pieces. I looked at her, and I saw the bitchy smirk she always used when she thought she was getting away with something. It made me sick. I knew I couldn't stay there and listen to her bullshit anymore. I had to get out, clear my head, figure out what I was going to do. I told her I needed some space, that I couldn't do this right now. I grabbed my keys and left her standing there, still trying to deny everything. I drove around for hours, trying to process what had just happened. The betrayal hit me like a punch to the gut every time I thought about Jessica, her texts, their secret calls, everything. I kept asking myself how she could lie so easily, how she could pretend everything was fine when she was out screwing my best friend. It was a whole new level of hurt I'd never known before. As I drove, I started to realize something. I'd been so caught up in trying to be the good husband, the forgiving one, that I'd ignored the warning signs. All those little betrayals, the late nights, the secretive texts, they all meant something. I'd been blind to her true nature. I was furious at Jessica too. How could she mess around with my wife, knowing full well she was my best friend? I felt a sick mix of anger and sadness. The trust I'd built over years was gone, shattered by lies and betrayal. Back at my place later that night, I sat alone, staring at my phone, trying to decide what to do next. I knew I had to confront her again, but I wasn't ready yet. I wanted to come up with a plan, something that would hit her where it hurt, but I also knew I couldn't just go on pretending everything was okay. I felt like a fool for trusting her, for thinking she loved me. I thought about all those moments, her bitchy attitude when I came home late, her dismissive attitude when I tried to talk to her about us. It all made sense now. She never loved me. She just loved the idea of having someone to take care of her, to provide for her, and Jessica was just the latest plaything for her to screw around with. That night, I made a promise to myself. I wasn't going to let her keep lying to me, keep playing me for a fool. I was done being the nice guy, ready to be brutal if I had to. I knew I had to decide whether I was going to fight for this marriage or cut my losses. Honestly, part of me wanted revenge, something to make her feel as betrayed as I felt right now. But I also knew I needed to protect myself emotionally. I couldn't keep living in this chaos, in this lie. I had to get out, or at least, I had to take control of the situation. I just didn't know yet what that looked like. All I knew was that my world had just been turned upside down, and I was trying to find my footing in the ruins of what I once thought was real. The next morning, I woke up feeling like I'd been run over by a truck. The rage was still there, but so was this deep, aching emptiness. I knew I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine or that I could just sweep this under the rug. I needed to act, but I also needed to protect myself emotionally. I decided I had to get some answers, but more importantly, I needed to figure out what I was going to do about her and Jessica. First thing I did was call a lawyer, just to get an idea of my rights, what I could do if I decided to divorce her. I didn't want to jump into anything, but I wanted to be prepared. After that, I started to plan my next move. I knew I wouldn't be able to confront her again without some kind of proof, so I dug through her phone more carefully. I found more messages, some pictures, even a few videos of her and Jessica fooling around. It made my stomach churn, but I had to see everything to truly understand how deep this betrayal went. That afternoon, I decided to go over to Jessica's house. I needed to see her in person, face to face, so I could get some kind of closure. I didn't tell anyone I was coming, I just showed up. Jessica opened the door looking surprised, then saw my face, and her expression immediately turned defensive. I didn't hold back. I told her exactly what I thought about her screwing my wife behind my back, how I knew about their secret texts, the hotel, everything. Her face went pale, and she started stumbling over her words, trying to deny it. I just cut her off and said, "You're a piece of shit for messing around with my wife, Jessica. You knew I was deployed and you still did it. How could you?" She looked at me with this guilty, terrified expression, and then she blurted out, "It wasn't supposed to mean anything. It just happened. Lisa was so bitchy all the time and I was lonely too. It didn't mean I wanted to hurt you." That's when I saw the truth in her eyes. She didn't care about me, about us. She was just another user, another weak woman who got caught up in her own mess. I told her I didn't want to hear her lies anymore, that I was done with her. I turned around and left. Returning home, I felt a strange mix of relief and devastation. I confronted her finally, and I saw her for what she really was: selfish, manipulative, and totally unfaithful. But I also knew this wasn't over. I wasn't the kind of guy who just walks away from betrayal like this. I needed to be sure she got the message. She couldn't keep playing me, or Jessica, or anyone else for that matter. That night I sat alone again, trying to piece together what I wanted. I knew I couldn't stay married to her, not after everything. The thought of her and Jessica together, fooling around behind my back, made me feel sick. But I also felt a strange sense of clarity. I'd been so blind before, so trusting, but now I saw her for what she really was: a bitchy, manipulative woman who'd do anything for sex or attention. This wasn't love. It was a sick game she'd been playing for years. I decided I was done. Done pretending, done forgiving, done lying to myself that things would somehow get better. It was over. I was going to start rebuilding my life, even if it hurt like hell. And honestly, I was already planning how I'd make her regret ever messing with me. The days that followed were some of the hardest I've ever experienced. Every time I thought I was starting to get a grip, something would remind me of her, or Jessica, or the betrayal, and I'd feel that familiar surge of anger and sadness. But I knew deep down I couldn't keep living in this chaos. I had to make a decision, whether to fight for the marriage or to walk away for good. I kept going over the options in my head. Part of me wanted to tear everything apart to make her pay for the pain she'd caused. But another part knew I deserved better, that staying would only keep me stuck in a cycle of hurt and betrayal. I decided I had to get out of the house, clear my head even more. I booked a trip somewhere just to get away for a few days, to think without all the noise and chaos. While I was packing, I found the last thing I ever expected: an unopened box of condoms hidden in her drawer. That was the final straw. It confirmed everything I'd already suspected. She'd been screwing around right under my nose even when I was away, and she'd been lying about it all. That moment, holding the box, I felt my stomach drop again. It was like I'd been punched one last time. I knew there was no way I could stay with her now. When I got to the airport, I felt a strange mixture of relief and emptiness. I knew I was making the right choice by leaving, but the pain was so raw I wondered if I'd ever feel normal again. I kept thinking about all the times I'd tried to make things work, all the moments I'd ignored the signs because I loved her. Now, I saw her for what she truly was: someone incapable of genuine love, just a user and a liar. I realized I'd been holding on to a fantasy, pretending everything was okay when clearly it was. Back home after my trip, I started the process of separating myself from her. I hired a lawyer, started packing my things, little by little, trying not to let the hurt consume me. I told her I wanted a divorce, plain and simple. She tried to act like it was no big deal, that she'd change, that she'd stop seeing Jessica, but I knew better. She'd lied so many times already, I didn't trust her anymore. The breakup was messy, lots of yelling, crying, accusations. But honestly, I felt more alive than I had in months. I finally admitted to myself that I deserved better than a wife who cheated, lied, and manipulated her way through our marriage. In the end, I learned a lot from this nightmare. Trust is everything, and once it's broken, it's damn near impossible to repair. I also realized that sometimes love isn't enough. People will hurt you if you let them. I wish I could say I feel completely free now, but truthfully, I'm still healing. Still trying to piece myself back together. But I do know this. I won't let her or Jessica define me. I'm done with the lies, the heartbreak, the betrayal. Now, it's just about moving forward and rebuilding a life where I can finally trust myself again. If there's one thing I'd tell anyone out there going through the same thing, it's this. Don't ignore the signs. Don't stay because you're scared of being alone. Because at the end of the day, you have to choose yourself. And I'm finally doing that. Looking back, I realize how much I let myself be blind for so long. I was in love, sure, but I also wanted to believe in the fairy tale that we had built together. I told myself she was just stressed, just busy, that maybe she'd change. But deep down, I knew better. I saw the signs, the little lies, the secret phone calls, and the late nights. Still, I clung to that hope because losing her felt like losing part of myself. Now I understand that love isn't about ignoring red flags or convincing yourself that it's all going to work out. It's about respect, honesty, and loyalty. And she threw all that away. The betrayal with Jessica wasn't just about sex. It was the culmination of months of lies, manipulations, and betrayals. I don't think I'll ever forget the feeling of finding those texts or the look on her face when I confronted her. That mix of guilt, defiance, and bitchy arrogance. She thought she was untouchable, that she could lie her way out of everything. But I saw through every word, every excuse, and I finally accepted that I deserved better. I learned that sometimes you have to walk away, even if it's the hardest thing you've ever done. Staying would have only meant more pain, more lies, and a life built on a false foundation. Now I focus on healing. I've cut ties with her completely. I've gone no contact, blocked her from my social media, and thrown out everything that reminded me of her. It's about reclaiming my life piece by piece. I've started therapy, trying to understand how I let this happen and how I can trust again someday. I've also reconnected with friends and family who have been supportive through this mess. They remind me that I'm still a good man, that I deserve happiness and honesty. That's what keeps me going, knowing I'm not alone and that I'll come out of this stronger. If I could give some advice to anyone reading this, it's simple. Trust your gut. Don't ignore the signs. When someone shows you who they really are, believe them. Don't stay just because you're afraid of being alone or because you think you can fix someone. Because most times the damage is already done, and the only person you should really be loyal to is yourself. Love isn't about sacrificing your worth for someone who doesn't value you. It's about mutual respect and honesty. I'm still healing, still figuring out how to trust again, but I know one thing for sure. This nightmare has taught me to value myself more, to never settle for less than I deserve, and to always keep my eyes open. Because betrayal might come in many forms, but I refuse to be fooled again. I've learned my lesson the hard way. Now, I'm just grateful to be moving forward, finally free from the lies and the pain.